Your mind is a powerful tool, but it's not always your ally. Sometimes we have a distorted reality and what we present as our narratives, and it could be exaggerated, sometimes very irrational and downright untrue. Every day we experience something called a cognitive distortion. And it traps us into the little twists and the perceptions of our reality. And you are not alone. These automatic thinking, these negative patterns that convince us of the false things that are happening that are not true, but we perceive them as being true. And what they do is they undermine our confidence and they stop us from really moving forward. See, the problem here is that the distortions are habitual, and I'm going to get into what distortions is in this video today. They're a shortcut for our brain. It takes us to a space where it involves it being in survival mode. And very often our brain can work against us. And it creates a deeper sense of anxiety, depression, sabotages relationships, and it really stops you from reaching your true potential. But there's good news here because I'm here. I never bring you something that I cannot really we kind of dismantle. And we're going to identify some distortions and we're going to identify some cognitive distortions. And we're going to retrain your brain. I'm going to teach you how to retrain your brain so you can have your brain start working with you opposed to against you. Hi, I'm Dr. Cheryl Clark, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, a communication coach, and a founder of Speak Your Power Now Academy. And I help people to discover their authentic voice and break through the barriers of what's been holding them back of reaching their true potential. And in today's show, and I'm going to be showing you precisely that how to reach your true potential with really starting to understand what are the distortions I may be looking through, how are they manifesting. And before I get into it, I just want to let you know one little note. I'm not here to replace your therapist, your coach, your mental health professional, but I am here to provide you with the practical skills that you can put in the real world right now. Strategies to support you on your mental wellness journey. Okay, so let's get right into it. And if you are here for the very first time, I take notes. So you might want to get your pen and paper out right here because today's topic, we're going to stop negative thoughts patterns. And this is where we can begin to look and see what this looks like. So I said a big word in the very, very beginning, cognitive behavior. This is a psychology word. And if you are here for the very first time, you're going to notice that I say a lot of words in psychology, but I break it down so you can really get what it means. And when someone says something around you, you can know what it means, right? So that the cognitive distortions, all it simply means is cognitive means you're thinking. Simply means you're thinking. And the distortion I'm going to get into is what does it mean to have the cognitive distortion and what that looks like. Cognitive distortion, putting it together, is an automatic irrational thought. So the cognitive you're thinking, the distortion is an irrational thought, right? So the irrational thought pattern, it really twists how you see the world and others. So these patterns, I'm going to get the psychologist Aaron Beck. He was very much so a psychologist that really brought this out and first understood what cognitive distortion is, and also more popularized was David Burns in Feeling Good, the new mood for therapy. And what he Burns identified how these distortion feed depression, feeds anxiety, feeds our emotional dysregulation. Now, what I always talk about emotional regulation and emotional deregulation is when you are not balanced. That's all that means. When I don't have my emotions intact, that's all that means. And what's important for you to understand and what to understand about distortion is distortions feel very true. but they are not true at all. They cloud your judgment, they derail your progress, and at times become obstacles for your personal growth. And think of the glitches that may happen throughout your life, but the distortions is just a little glitch. And think about we can fix that little glitch, right? Because we want to know why these distortions really happen. The why is very simple. The brain is wired for shortcuts. And this is how we survive when danger happens. So this is what a lot of times people say we pivot in the environment. If we have to do something, a quick turn or something. But those shortcuts make us very vulnerable to distorted thinking. So whether it's cultural, social environments, or whatever it is, it reinforces these patterns. And what reinforces is the first one I would say is your upbringing. This might have started right there in your upbringing, because you may have been in an environment that said you had to be perfect. So then you prioritize being perfect, perfectionism when you grow up. Maybe society pressures. It amplified your comparison, blaming, and all these things that may come across with that. And then negative relationships. You may have been trapped in a negative relationship. And it's me versus them, or us versus you, or whatever it is, and me versus them, whatever it is, the thinking, what starts to happen is it builds up stress, it builds up anxiety, it builds up depression, it builds up all these things that we now have to survive in. And these distortions may feel very real. That's why we got to be able to recognize when they appear. And in the moment, we need to recognize how we can shift that thinking. Okay. So, what I'm going to do is give you to recognize 6 distortions that I want you to see right away and recognize. And when you recognize them, you get to recognize who you are and where you're going to begin. Okay. So, let me start with the first one. There's some words that you may have heard or not, and I'm going to work with you in seeing how you can recognize them when they do show up. Now, if for any reason you are saying that I can relate to that, don't be hard on yourself with just identifying. Now, in this video, what I'm doing is I am giving you the short version. I'm going to be going through it and I'm going to be giving you short definitions, but I'm also creating a course to accompany this with a workbook and a guide so you can walk through this at your own pace. But for right now, I'm going to give you an overview of the 6 um, cognitive distortions. So here we go. The first one, polarization. You may polarize. You may have heard this word, but I'm really going to tell you why polarized thinking. Okay? Now, what is polarized thinking? All it is, I want you to realize is black and white. I have a black and white thinking. So, what does that mean, Cheryl? It means, in short, that you see things as all in or nothing. That's all it means. So, if you look at this, I'm not perfect. I'm a failure. You get an A on a test, but you decide it was not good enough. So, why is this harmful? Because it's a very rigid way of thinking. And it's very difficult for you to acknowledge any progress about yourself, anything that you can learn from your mistakes. You got to accept the imperfections as a part of life. But what happens is when you have a black and white thinking, and no flexibility of gray, it leads you to unrealistic expectations. And it can lead to stress. It can lead to feeling of inadequacy. So you need to look at how you may be polarized or polarized thinking. The second one, you need mental filtering. Do you have mental filtering? Now, what does this mean when I say mental filtering? Now, filtering is a good scenario of understanding how you are seeing the world through your mind. Okay? So mental filtering, a short definition of mental filtering is you focus on the negatives and ignore all the positives. So you filter it out. You filter out all the negatives, all the positive, you just shifting it out. So the mental filtering is, for example, you receive positive feedback at work, but you obsess over the one minor critique. I always tell the story. Think about for another example of this is mental filtering. Is that you come in and you may have made a dinner for 10 people, and 9 out of the 10 people say, "Oh my goodness, this meal was fantastic," and one person out of the meal, the guest says, "Oh my goodness, but the meat was too salty." You take that one, the one out of 10, out of 9 people, one person gave a negative response. And you harp on that and obsessed with that one critique. And the cognitive distortion skews your perception of the reality that most people love the meal. And what happened is you lead yourself to pessimism, low self-esteem, and dissatisfaction. And you remember when it comes back, what does it stem from? It may be stemming from childhood. But you become blind to the good things that may have been happening. And, thanking the people that really, really enjoyed that meal, opposed to really obsessing over the one person that said, "I didn't like the meal." So you got to look at who and how and what you may be doing. The third one, overgeneralization. Overgeneralization. That is just what it is. You overgeneralize things and you don't even realize that you're doing it. So let's go into this one, overgeneralization. So a short definition is you draw these conclusions from one single event. So one failure becomes a permanent thing for you. It becomes your universal truth. So if someone cheated on you, that means that all men are cheaters. That's possible. Overgeneralization. You have one failed job interview, you think you'll never get hired anywhere. That's an overgeneralization. Why is this harmful? Because a distortion leads to a road of hopelessness. And it prevents you from even attempting to do it again, or to attempt to even try again, to even date again, to even go for an interview again. It robs you of opportunities. It robs you of any growth and success. So this is why you got to really look at this distortion, because what happens is all it is the cognitive thinking. You're thinking. When I say this cognitive distortion, it means you're thinking. Am I overdoing overgeneralization of things? The fourth one, let's get into it. Personalization. Personalization. Now let's get into this one because personalization is a thing. We may not see it as a thing, but it's a thing. Personalization. Now, what is the short definition? I'm going to get into a longer definition when I do the course. You blame yourself for outside things out of your control. You assume responsibility of the negativity of the outcome when it's not even directly your fault. So your team misses a deadline. Let's say your team misses a deadline, but you think it's all your fault. So you take it personal. And why does this damages things? Because it's unnecessary guilt and stress that you're putting on yourself. It happened. It can damage your self-esteem and make you feel powerless in a situation. And these external feelings of where you feel like this things are happening to me and I'm personalizing everything, which doesn't allow you to grow. And it doesn't allow you to be complimentary with people and be able to move with people. Okay? The fifth one, blaming. Blaming. Okay, Cheryl, that sounds very to the point, right? Blaming. Blaming is a short definition, the opposite of personalization. You blame others for your problems. It's my partner's fault that my relationship is messed up. It's my coworker's fault that I didn't meet that deadline. It's this person's fault. Now, this prevents you from taking any accountability. Accountability is necessary for your growth. If you are always blaming others, you miss the opportunities to reflect on your own role. You have to make the changes to learn from a mistake, learn from that so you can grow. That's the only way that you can grow. All right. And the last one, labeling. Now, this one I talk about a lot because labeling is a thing. Now, what is labeling? The short definition, you attach negative labels to all yourself and others. You attach the negative identity, the traits, someone based on a single event again, or mistake, or whatever it is. So if someone's, I missed the gym today, or I'm lazy, or I'm stupid. That used to be a thing that I used to really put in the space of, and I had to really, that's why I Speak Your Power Now has become this thing that I'm moving forward in, because I am not going to stop anyone, but I need to know that the word stupid was something that I dealt with growing up. So I thought growing up that I labeled myself as being stupid. And you got to realize that this was something from childhood, and it can damage your feelings, and it could do permanent damage if you're not aware. So I'm making you aware to define the moment instead of you recognizing that it's not a full complexity of you. When my stepfather was calling me dumb and stupid, those were times in my life that I had to transform. Why is it harmful? Because for many years, I lived through that label. I lived through that label. And the label is the thing that stops you. The label is the thing that makes you stuck, that traps you. I want to give you one more bonus one, if I can. Now, this is what you may see in people, or you may not be you, always being right. Now, you may say, I know somebody like this. This may not be you. So this may not be you, or it may be you. I don't know. But always being right. Let me just make sure I spell right. Okay. Well, what does that mean, Cheryl? For short, the arguing is endless to prove that you're correct. You dismiss any evidence, any facts, anybody else's perspectives because you don't like being wrong. And that's something that you may have grown up with. Maybe you were the one that was a scapegoat. Maybe you was the one that was always wrong. I don't know, but you dismiss anything that challenges your opinion. You're not going to get very far like that. That's why it's a distortive cognitive thinking. You're thinking of always being right. So the mindset, it gets strained on the relationship. It blocks the growth. It creates conflict, and it prevents you from even having a listening ear, learning, collaborating effectively with people. And as you take these 7, I want you to understand that these are distortions, but recognizing they influence in your thoughts. And if you take on this and be aware to begin to learn to challenge them, if you identify with any of these, I want you to learn that you can break free from them any of these mental traps that may be holding you back. You can change your thinking. But one thing I want you to know, it doesn't happen overnight. But with your practice, you can begin to replace these distorted thoughts. Get balance, empower your perspective, and begin to speak your power now. And I'm going to give you 4 ways that you can do this, okay? 4 ways that you can do it right now, right where you are. I want you to firstly observe, and when we get into the course, then you want to make sure you get the course. I'm going to go all in depth with it. The first thing you want to do is that you want to observe. These are the 4 things I want you to do, 4 steps. So the first step is you're going to observe the thought. Observe the thought. Because once you observe your thoughts, you can begin to see how your mind works. You're going to write them down. If any negative thought comes up, you're going to be the first one to ask yourself, what am I telling myself? Is it true? Write it down and write it down objectively. Document your thoughts. Analyze it with someone else that can help you, not someone that's going to judge you. Create a space that you can have clarity. So the first thing you're going to do is observe the thought. Second thing is you're going to look at how you can replace the thought. Second, replace the thought. Replace the thought. This distorted thinking about who you are, the language, replace replace the absolute thoughts, like words like always, I'm never, everything is going wrong, nothing ever happens, all these false things, and replace them with very balanced words. Like, if you failed at something, don't put I always fail. I failed this time. Do something. I'm going to do something different next time. That's totally different. I acknowledge that I missed the mark, but I'm going to move forward. But I always fail. That's keeping you locked in. I see myself succeeding, or I didn't succeed this time. I'll get them better next time. Things like that. It's encouraging to yourself, and people will actually see that. Then I want you to shift from labels to facts. Third one is that you're going to look at the facts. Facts stops you from identifying from any negativity for yourself. It means that if you didn't go to the gym today, the world is not going to come to an end. You got to reframe it. Reframe the language. Reframe it, and it's not judgment. No judgment. I want you to empower the new action, right? And I want you to be present with your today. Stop thinking about what happened yesterday. Be present in the moment for today. Then the last one is I want you to challenge your thoughts, because it's going to be something that you need to do, because if you don't challenge it, what tends to happen, you will repeat it. So you got to keep a journal. I would say also keep a regular journal. But also I want you to, when you write down every thought, remember these thoughts are automatic. And automatic thoughts arise very quickly because you're in survival mode. So what is your trigger? What was the trigger? Is it true? Is there any evidence? What's the worst case scenario? And I'm going to go through this course with you so you can actually be able to move through this. But you can do this right here. And I want you to see that there's a pathway forward. And the pathway forward is taking responsibility for your own thoughts. The responsibility is on you. You got to begin to take responsibility for your cognition. The cognitive distortions rob you of clarity, of confidence, and being in action. But see, I want you to realize that you're not powerless. In this moment right now, I have brought awareness to some of these distortions. However, you can reclaim your power today. You can stop being a victim of any mind, any thoughts, and you can start becoming a victor. So the next time you catch yourself being trapped or stuck in a thought, I want you to pause, observe it, challenge it, replace it. Observe it. I want you to observe it, replace it, look at the facts, challenge it, and replace it. And over time, you're going to really train your mind to work with you and not against you. So now that you're moving forward, this is how I want you to speak your power now by mastering your mind. I want you to begin to really look at what's reality. And then you're going to be able to see how life is going to you're going to be moving with it. And I want you to know if this resonates with you, I want you to comment, like, share, and mostly, I want you to begin to see that you don't forget that this is a journey and you gonna get the tools along the way. I'm one of those people that's gonna help you. So don't forget to like, subscribe, share, join the Speak Your Power Now Academy, because as you master your thoughts, you get to reclaim the power of your life. And as you take this knowledge, act on it by speaking your power now, because the world needs your voice. And remember, I always end like this. Sometimes your life is defined by one single moment. Let that moment be today. Until next time.